She wasn't a famous queen. She did not stand at the front of armies or speak speeches that rang out across the land. Azuba's name is not remembered in the same breath as David's or Solomon's. Yet, behind the scenes, in the heart of Judah's royal court, there was a quiet power, an unseen force who, though silent, helped carry the weight of the kingdom. We live in a world that often glorifies loud voices and big gestures, but Azuba's life reminds us that God often works in the unseen, in the quiet moments when no one is looking. Her strength was not in her outward actions, but in her deep, unwavering faith in God, a faith that held her family and her nation together. While Asa made bold moves to tear down altars and idols, Azuba stayed quietly in the background, supporting him with prayer and wisdom. Judah's people were torn between true worship of God and the temptation of foreign idols, swaying between devotion and disobedience, between life and destruction. In such a time, Azuba's faith would be tested. She grew up knowing that every decision, every step taken by the king could tip the scales for Judah, either for destruction or for redemption. A land divided, a kingdom at war with itself, and faith teetering on the edge of collapse. This was the world into which Azuba was born. But God had a purpose for Azuba. Though she would not become a queen like others, celebrated in the annals of history, her quiet strength would be the unspoken foundation upon which Judah's future would be built. The role of the unseen servant of the woman behind the king was often overlooked. Yet, it was in these very shadows that Azuba's influence grew. She would not wield a sword, nor would she make royal decrees in the palace halls. But Azuba would bear the one who would continue the royal line, the son who would become a king after Asa, a man whose faith in God would restore Judah's purpose. And now, as you read this, ask yourself, what unseen strength is God calling you to? How might your quiet faith impact the world around you, even when no one is looking? Are you living a life of faith that will be passed on to the next generation? Just as Azuba carried Judah's future within her womb, what legacy are you quietly building in the hearts of those around you? If you believe that God can use your quiet faith to change the world, type in the comments, "Lord, use my faith." No, Azuba's story may not have been one of fame, but it was one of profound impact. Through her, God shaped the future of an entire nation. And through you, God can do the same. Share this story with someone who needs to hear that the quiet acts of faith are the ones that move mountains. Let's encourage each other to live faithfully, even when no one notices. Azuba's life as queen was not one of luxurious feasts or celebrations. The role of a queen in Judah was not filled with grandeur or royal festivities. Instead, it was filled with silent strength, unspoken influence, and a constant undercurrent of pressure. As Asa's wife, Azuba had the weight of the kingdom on her shoulders, though her name was rarely mentioned in the royal records. She was not the queen of fairy tales, adorned with jewels and sitting in palatial halls, but the queen who quietly bore witness to the trials and triumphs of a nation. The halls of the royal palace were not filled with music and merriment, but with the somber tones of leadership, a kingdom torn between faithfulness to God and the temptation of foreign gods. Azuba's life was one of deep responsibility and quiet power, a reminder that sometimes the greatest work happens behind the scenes, unseen by the world but known to God. Though she did not wield a sword or make royal decrees, Azuba's influence was undeniable. She played her role with grace and quiet strength, helping her husband, Asa, navigate the immense challenges of leadership. Asa was a king who sought to reform Judah, removing idols, destroying pagan altars, and purifying the land. He was zealous in his efforts to bring Judah back to God, but the task was not easy. The people of Judah were fickle, easily swayed by the idols of the nations around them. It was in these turbulent times that Azuba's strength became most evident. Her role was not to lead the army or make bold declarations to the people. Instead, her role was one of quiet support. In the stillness of the palace, Azuba played an integral part in maintaining the kingdom's stability. She was a witness to Asa's efforts, not as a passive observer, but as one who stood beside him with strength, wisdom, and quiet faith. While Asa took bold steps to remove the idolatry from the land, Azuba was the constant presence in the background. She was there when decisions were made, when moments of uncertainty arose, and when the weight of leadership seemed unbearable. Through it all, she remained a steadfast woman of faith, praying for God's guidance and strength, even when her role seemed invisible. In a time when so many sought to make their names known in the history books, Azuba's power was not found in the public eye, but in the silent moments, those unseen moments that shaped the future of Judah. And now, I ask you, how many of us have felt unseen in our roles? How many times have we given faithfully, worked quietly, and served with all our heart, only to be overlooked? Let Azuba's life remind you, even the unseen, unacknowledged moments are used by God to fulfill His purposes. Do you feel like your contributions go unnoticed? If you've ever felt like Azuba, silently supporting those around you, type in the comments, "Lord, use my quiet faith." Let this story be an encouragement to those who serve in silence. Your faithfulness is not forgotten. Share this with someone who needs to be reminded that God sees all, even the things done in the quiet, unseen moments. And don't forget to subscribe to Bible in Motion to be inspired by more stories of faith, strength, and grace. Together, let's continue moving forward in faith, just like Azuba. Azuba's silence spoke volumes. While the world outside may have been filled with clamor, politics, and royal decrees, she chose the quiet path. Azuba did not seek fame or glory. Her influence was not loud or flashy. She was not the woman who stood before the nation proclaiming God's promises, nor was she the one making grand decisions. Instead, her strength was found in her steady, quiet presence, in the moments when she simply prayed, observed, and trusted in the Lord's timing. Azuba was the daughter of Siloam, a man whose name is scarcely mentioned in history, yet his family was connected to the highest echelons of Judah's elite. Her life was not shaped by fame or grandeur, but by the profound faithfulness of God working through the quiet moments. Born into a time of division and strife, Azuba came of age in a kingdom plagued by civil war, idol worship, and unstable leaders. We live in a world that often glorifies loud voices and big gestures, but Azuba's life reminds us that God often works in the unseen, in the quiet moments when no one is looking. Her strength was not in her outward actions, but in her deep, unwavering faith in God, a faith that held her family and her nation together. While Asa made bold moves to tear down altars and idols, Azuba stayed quietly in the background, supporting him with prayer and wisdom. She did not need to stand in the spotlight to influence her husband or the people of Judah. Her silent faith was the bedrock upon which Asa's leadership rested. The most important decisions of a kingdom are not always made in the council halls or on the battlefield. They are made in the quiet moments of prayer, when the soul is steady and the heart is aligned with God's will. Azuba's influence was not recorded in the annals of history, but it was felt by everyone who came in contact with her. Azuba was the daughter of Siloam, a man whose name is scarcely mentioned in history, yet his family was connected to the highest echelons of Judah's elite. Her life was not shaped by fame or grandeur, but by the profound faithfulness of God working through the quiet moments. Born into a time of division and strife, Azuba came of age in a kingdom plagued by civil war, idol worship, and unstable leaders. Are you being faithful in the quiet moments of your life? Are you trusting God, even when it feels like no one notices? If you believe that God can use your silent faith to make an impact, type in the comments, "God, use my silence for your glory." Share this story with someone who may feel invisible in their faith. Let them know that just like Azuba, their quiet devotion is making a difference. And don't forget to subscribe to Bible in Motion to continue discovering powerful lessons of faith and grace. She wasn't a famous queen. She did not stand at the front of armies or speak speeches that rang out across the land. Azuba's name is not remembered in the same breath as David's or Solomon's. Yet, Behind the scenes, in the heart of Judah's royal court, there was a quiet power, an unseen force who, though silent, helped carry the weight of the kingdom. Are you being faithful in the quiet moments of your life? Are you trusting God, even when it feels like no one notices? If you believe that God can use your silent faith to make an impact, type in the comments, "God, use my silence for your glory." Share this story with someone who may feel invisible in their faith. Let them know that just like Azuba, their quiet devotion is making a difference. She understood that the way she raised her son would shape not only his heart, but the destiny of the entire nation. As she nurtured Jehoshaphat, she instilled in him the values of faith, righteousness, and obedience to God. She did not raise him in a palace filled with luxury and distractions. She raised him in a home where God's word was honored, where prayer was central, and where the kingdom's future was always before them. Azuba's role was not just to care for her son physically, but to prepare him spiritually. She knew that the king of Judah would need more than strength and wisdom. He would need unwavering faith and a heart aligned with God. Azuba's influence was not in the public ceremonies or royal decrees, but in the quiet moments of motherhood. Every prayer whispered, every word of encouragement spoken, every lesson taught was shaping the man who would one day sit on Judah's throne. Azuba's preparation for Jehoshaphat's future was not just a matter of royal etiquette or palace politics. It was a matter of faith. As the kingdom was grappling with corruption and idolatry, Azuba knew that true restoration could only come through God. And she made sure her son knew that too. She raised him in the ways of the Lord, teaching him that a king's greatest responsibility was to seek God's guidance above all else. And now, let us reflect on our own roles as parents, mentors, or leaders. How are we preparing the next generation to walk in God's ways? Azuba's quiet investment in Jehoshaphat's spiritual future teaches us that the most important work we can do is often the quietest. Are you shaping the next generation with wisdom, faith, and obedience to God? If you believe that God has called you to invest in the future of those around you, type in the comments, "Lord, use me to raise up a generation for you." Share this story with others who may be raising children, mentoring young people, or leading others. Let's encourage each other to invest deeply in the future of those we care for, just as Azuba did with Jehoshaphat. And don't forget to subscribe to Bible in Motion for more stories of faith and legacy that will inspire you to live out God's calling in your life. Azuba's life as queen was not one of luxurious feasts or celebrations. The role of a queen in Judah was not filled with grandeur or royal festivities. Instead, it was filled with silent strength, unspoken influence, and a constant undercurrent of pressure. As Asa's wife, Azuba had the weight of the kingdom on her shoulders, though her name was rarely mentioned in the royal records. And don't forget to subscribe to Bible in Motion for more stories of faith and legacy that will inspire you to live out God's calling in your life. And now, let us reflect on our own roles as parents, mentors, or leaders. How are we preparing the next generation to walk in God's ways? Azuba's quiet investment in Jehoshaphat's spiritual future teaches us that the most important work we can do is often the quietest. Azuba's influence on Jehoshaphat went far beyond the years of his childhood. While Asa's reign saw triumphs and struggles, it was in the quiet moments between her and her son that a legacy of faith was being shaped, an unseen legacy that would guide Jehoshaphat as he took the throne of Judah. Azuba didn't just raise a future king, she raised a man of faith. She didn't teach him to rule through political savvy or military might, but through obedience to God and trust in his guidance. As Jehoshaphat grew, he witnessed his mother's steady faith. When Asa, his father, became distracted by political alliances and compromised in his walk with God, Azuba remained firm in her trust. She was not loud in her disapproval, but her silent faith spoke volumes. Every decision Asa made in those latter years echoed the changes within his heart. But through it all, Azuba's unwavering trust in God stood as an example for Jehoshaphat. Even though Azuba's name might not have been widely recorded, her influence was felt in every moment of Jehoshaphat's reign. And now, I ask you, what legacy are you leaving for the generations to come? What are you quietly shaping in the lives of those around you? Azuba's life teaches us that the most powerful legacies are the ones built in the quiet moments, moments of prayer, moments of love, moments of unwavering faith. He was the fruit of Azuba's quiet labor, a woman who taught her son, not with grand speeches, but through the simple, powerful acts of living out a life of faith. Azuba didn't need public recognition. Her legacy was not found in monuments or statues, but in the decisions Jehoshaphat made as king. His commitment to seeking God's guidance, his efforts to strengthen Judah's faith, and his just leadership were all shaped by the mother who had raised him. And don't forget to subscribe to Bible in Motion, where we explore more stories that leave a lasting impact on faith, family, and future generations. Judah's people were torn between true worship of God and the temptation of foreign idols, swaying between devotion and disobedience, between life and destruction. In such a time, Azuba's faith would be tested. She grew up knowing that every decision, every step taken by the king could tip the scales for Judah, either for destruction or for redemption. A land divided, a kingdom at war with itself, and faith teetering on the edge of collapse. This was the world into which Azuba was born. Azuba, though her name was no longer spoken in the royal court, had left a lasting imprint on Jehoshaphat's heart. As king, Jehoshaphat faced the pressures of leadership, but he sought God in every decision. He understood that the future of Judah was not dependent on military might or political alliances, but on the faithfulness of its king to God. This wisdom did not come from his father's example. Though Asa had once been faithful to God, it came from Azuba, his mother, whose quiet prayers and steady faith had shaped his character. The public records may have left Azuba's name out, but her influence was woven deeply into the fabric of Judah's restoration. The reforms Jehoshaphat enacted, the devotion he fostered in the people, and the strength he exhibited during times of trial were all grounded in the faith that Azuba had instilled in him. She had raised him to look to God first, to seek divine guidance before making any decision. Even in the midst of war and political unrest, Jehoshaphat remained committed to God, seeking his wisdom above all else. When the kingdom faced external threats, Jehoshaphat turned to God for deliverance, and God answered. This was not the result of a military strategy or political maneuvering. It was the result of a deep and abiding trust in the Lord, a trust that had been nurtured by Azuba's quiet example of faith. As the king led Judah with righteousness, restoring the nation's devotion to God, Azuba's legacy became more evident. The reforms that Jehoshaphat enacted to bring the people back to the true worship of God were rooted in the lessons she had taught him as a child. Her silent prayers, her unwavering faith, her steady presence during the tumult of Judah's history, these were the forces that shaped a king who would go down in history as one of Judah's greatest rulers. And now, as we reflect on Jehoshaphat's reign, we must ask ourselves, what legacy are we leaving in the hearts of those we lead? Are we setting an example of faith and trust in God that will shape the generations to come? Are you leading with wisdom and faith in the way that Azuba modeled for Jehoshaphat? If you desire to leave a lasting impact through your faith, type in the comments, Lord, guide my heart to lead in your truth. Let's share this powerful reminder with others who need to be encouraged that the most important influence in their leadership is the foundation of faith. Share this story, and together, let's build a legacy that honors God. And don't forget to subscribe to Bible in Motion for more powerful stories that challenge us to live faithfully and lead with integrity. Azuba's life teaches us many lessons, lessons of quiet faith, unwavering dedication, and the power of unseen influence. While the world often values loud actions, public displays, and instant results, Azuba's story reveals that God often works through the quiet, faithful acts that no one notices. It is in the unseen moments that the greatest legacies are built. Azuba did not live for recognition. She didn't seek applause or public acclaim. Instead, she understood that her role as a queen, a mother, and a silent supporter, was just as significant as any other. Her faith was not flashy, but it was unshakable. She quietly shaped the future of Judah by raising a king who would bring restoration to the nation. Though she may have lived in the background, her influence on Jehoshaphat's reign was profound, and it would resonate for generations. The lesson here is clear. God often works in the silence. It is in the quiet moments of prayer, the steady acts of faith, and the patient waiting that God's will is accomplished. Azuba's life reminds us that faith is not always about big declarations or public acts. It is about being faithful in the small, everyday moments that make a lasting impact. Azuba never sought to control the kingdom or demand attention. Instead, she quietly held the kingdom together through her unwavering trust in God. Her influence was felt not because of her words, but because of her actions. The legacy we leave is shaped not by what we say, but by what we do in the quiet moments, away from the spotlight. The story of Azuba also teaches us the power of a mother's influence. As a mother, she instilled in her son the values of faith, obedience, and love for God. The quiet sacrifices, the lessons taught through her actions, and the prayers whispered in the darkness were the foundation upon which Jehoshaphat built his reign. As parents, mentors, and leaders, we must remember that the greatest legacy we can leave is not in what we say, but in what we do to raise up the next generation in the ways of the Lord. Azuba's life reminds us that we do not need to be seen to be significant in God's plan. He uses the small, the quiet, the unnoticed acts of faith to accomplish His will. What may seem like a small step of obedience in your life could be the very thing that changes the future for someone else. Your quiet prayers, your steady faith, your unassuming acts of service, they matter. They shape the hearts of those around you, and in ways you may never see, they change the course of history. And now, let's pause for a moment of reflection. How can we be faithful in the quiet moments of our lives? How can we leave a legacy that reflects God's greatness, even when we are not in the spotlight? Are you ready to live out your faith in the quiet moments, trusting that God is using your actions to impact the future? If you want to be faithful in the unseen moments, type in the comments, God, use my quiet faith for your glory. Share this message with someone who might feel unnoticed or unimportant. Let them know that their quiet acts of faith are making a difference in ways they cannot see. And don't forget to subscribe to Bible in Motion for more stories that encourage and challenge us to live out our faith with purpose and grace. As we reflect on Azuba's story, we are reminded of the power of quiet faith and the lasting influence it has on the generations to come. Azuba's life was not marked by loud speeches or grandiose acts of power, but by her unwavering trust in God and her steadfast love for her family. She lived out her faith in the quiet moments, and in doing so, she shaped a future that would honor God. Her legacy teaches us that God values the faithful who work in silence, those who serve quietly and faithfully, even when no one is watching. What legacy are you building? Are you faithfully serving God in the small, quiet moments, knowing that He sees everything? Azuba's story challenges us to evaluate how we live out our faith in our daily lives. Are we raising up the next generation with God's love, teaching them to trust in Him, even when the world around them is uncertain? If Azuba's life has inspired you to live faithfully in the quiet moments and to pass on a legacy of faith, type in the comments, Lord, help me build a legacy of faith. This is not just about Azuba, it's about each of us, right where we are. Just like Azuba, we may not be in the spotlight, but God is calling us to be faithful in the roles He has given us, whether in our families, communities, or workplaces. Whether you are raising children, mentoring others, or quietly supporting your family, your faith matters. Share this story with someone who needs to hear that their quiet acts of faith have eternal significance. Maybe someone close to you needs to be reminded that God is using their silent prayers, their quiet support, and their humble acts of obedience to shape the future. Share this video and encourage them to continue serving faithfully. Subscribe to Bible in Motion, where every story moves your faith forward. Every story, like Azuba's, challenges us to reflect on our purpose and live with purpose. Together, let's continue to explore the power of God's grace in the lives of ordinary people
Thank you so
and how
much.
their faith, though unseen, can move mountains.